Hello, everyone. This is the day a week that our two shows sort of intersect. We have Liberation Nation intersecting with Liberate Daily. This week, James and I have Trisha Butler, who's running for Clarksville City Council. Is that right, Trish?
Yes, it is.
There we go. And Trisha just joined, so that's like the first time I've heard her tonight. And
Very loud.
Toller, for the love of God, do something about the audio if you can.
Sure. Let me try.
There you go.
That's
better. That's a lot better. All right. Sorry. So anyway, what'd you say we're going to talk about tonight, Trish?
Me?
Yeah.
What'd you say we were going to talk
I'm
about?
just having fun. Well, I picked a pet peeve I thought we would talk about, but I'll go first. I've got no problem with that. I saw something in Wall Street Journal. I know I tend to tend toward the financial stuff a little bit, but I saw something in Wall Street Journal, the verbiage of which just infuriated me. It said Walmart flexes its scale to power through the pandemic. And, you know, to me, that is totally not what happened. And if you go reading in their report, there's a sentence that really gives it away. Consolidated gross profit rates increased by 63 basis points, primarily as a result of a shift of mix of sales to higher margin general merchandise categories. So, and they were talking about this on, Toller, your audio is still horrible, man. But I
don't know how.
You don't know how. Let me make sure it's Toller.
Is it me?
Nah, see, if we get rid of Toller, it sounds great. We'll just keep Toller muted, and you know, we've had a lot of call-in requests for that, actually. Kidding. Did you fix it? You fixed something.
Is that better?
All right. That's a lot better. I put you on mute while you fixed it because that was horrific.
Did you turn the fan off?
Well, yeah, I might have turned my air off in my car because I'm, like, not at home. So.
All right. So anyway, what I was saying is the Wall Street Journal is saying that Walmart flexes its scale to power through the pandemic, and that's not what happened. What happened is there was a rotation of what people were purchasing away from low profit items like food more to general merchandise. And why was there a rotation to general merchandise? Well, I can't speak for every single state in the country because I didn't research them all, but I noticed on March 26th, our governor, Andy, closed down auto dealers, motor vehicle dealerships, furniture and home furnishing stores, electronics and appliance stores. There's some high margin items for you. Optical goods stores, health care and personal care stores, clothing stores, shoe stores, jewelry, luggage, sporting goods, hobbies, musical, blah, blah, blah. Everything. But Walmart got to stay open because they sell groceries too. So that's why that particular headline just angered me, because that's not what happened. It's not that Walmart powered through this because they're a great company, or they powered through this because of their scale or their brilliant logistics. They powered through this because we shut down their flipping competition. That's why they powered through this.
Okay.
So I guess that's more of a rant than a discussion item. But
You're
so
right,
what was
on?
What was going on with those sorts of things in Tennessee, Trish? I think your governor handled it quite differently, right?
Yeah, well, I'm going to try to turn on the microphone. Okay. Can you still hear me?
I can
Hopefully
still hear you.
better.
Much.
Of course, we kind of just, I don't know, we stayed open, you know? From what I can see here in town, it's of course the small businesses that are hurting, which is
of course
heartbreaking. But yeah, I mean, Walmart stayed open. I guess they shut down their hours a little bit, but we didn't have all. I mean, there was an amount of time. I'm trying to think back because it's been a while now. We didn't shut down like you guys shut down. As a matter of fact, good old Andy told us to stay out of your state, which is a big deal for me because I live at exit 4 and the state line is at exit 1. So
wow,
it was like, no, we're not going to stay out of your state, actually.
Now, is that along 65?
24.
24. I got you.
Yeah. So, but for the most part, everybody shut down for, maybe a week or two, and then they started just doing carry out and stuff like that. And some of the small businesses, like local businesses that are bigger, some of them didn't do too bad because we started letting them do carry out alcohol. So that was great for the Mexican restaurants, for instance.
Right.
But I have a friend that owned a small coffee shop, especially the newer businesses. They almost shut down. They actually had to move. So I guess I'm kind of making a short answer long and saying that we didn't see a lot of the bigger businesses hurt too bad, but that our small businesses absolutely suffering, in my opinion.
So I mean, that doesn't sound like it was from shutdowns, though. Is that just from the way people reacted? That's just people distancing, people not going out. What exactly caused the small businesses to suffer?
Well, some of it is just from the shutdown because some of them could not continue going on with just takeout or having their dine-ins closed or whatnot. And then a lot of it came from those people. The bigger businesses are the ones that got the help, the financial help, because
right.
The banks were giving the bigger loans so that they had to do less loans, like just that kind of shadiness, and I do really feel like the little guy got hurt.
I think I missed some of what you said the first time because I was looking around, checking things. I'm not used to this platform yet. I've got 3 screens I'm staring at, so I get a little lost. Sorry, I'll get better.
So, Trish, if they did shut down the small businesses, what things could you do as a city council person to help out with the loss and everything that the small businesses are getting hit with?
I think the question to that is how to do that without doing things that we don't want to do, like raising taxes. And
exactly.
I'm not going to lie and pretend like I have an answer to that right now. I think that it would take some sitting down and really making a plan. But I will say that I probably wouldn't have shut the businesses down to begin with. Of course, if a business needed to do that or felt they needed to do that, then, I'd be supportive of that. But I think the biggest thing in regard to COVID is that, I'm not happy about the mandates.
Right.
And that's directly affecting the market. And when you're talking about shutting down everybody except for Walmart, you're directly affecting the market.
That's a pretty heavy thumb on the scale there.
Yeah, right. I do think that we got to figure out what are we going to do now, And I think that as much as I'd love to have an answer for that, and I would probably win my election if I did, I think that that's going to take a very big roundtable and many, many hours of thoughtful planning and consideration.
Cool. So where do you? I mean, you don't like the mandates. I take it a mask as an example of that. But how do you feel about masks in general? Any stance on masks?
I wear a mask. I have encouraged people from the beginning of this to wear a mask voluntarily.
Right.
Whether or not, here's the fact of the matter with COVID, and I don't really see anything has changed. We don't know a lot about it still, and I do think that does have to do with the fact that both sides benefit from that, the election infection.
Right.
However, I mean, it's a new thing, and for me, risk versus reward, I'll put a stupid mask on my face, even if it may or may not work. I take care of the people around me. So
sure.
I do encourage that, but I do definitely, I wish that we've left it at that.
Right.
I'm just like,
right.
if you're not gonna wear a mask and be around me, then stay 6 feet away from me, and I will vocalize that. I don't know where you've been.
I do think trying to be good neighbors and trying to keep people in your community from getting ill is a really great way to help keep businesses open. And of course, I still prescribe to the original flatten the curve argument, where the discussion is hospital capacity, because what you don't want is you don't want somebody dying for lack of ventilator. But I've never bought into the flatten the curve to death thing, which seems to be the theory that this somehow morphed into. I mean, there's a lot of people on the planet that have this virus now. We are not going to eliminate it via flattening the curve.
Yeah, that ship has kind of sailed.
Yeah.
I will say this though,
So,
our county mayor has had a mask mandate now, and this is what's hard to argue with the anti-maskers, so to speak. We've had the mask mandate for probably a month now or so, and our numbers are going up. Our death numbers in particular are going up. Montgomery County, Tennessee is 15 out of the top 20. So then you have to try to justify that with people. And it's like, it's just, some days it's just a real losing battle.
Sure. So what you're saying is your county is an anecdotal piece of evidence of masks not working.
I mean, see, I'm not medical, so would I actually say that? No, I just say, here are the observations. The observations, we've had a mask mandate for 4 months or for 4 weeks, and the numbers haven't, our
right.
numbers are going up. Those are just all facts that we have to,
right.
fight with. So,
well, if you think back to March when they were first talking about masks, there were common little statements in there like well worn or properly worn, and they don't really say that as much anymore. And even like just a week and a half ago, I was reading something on the CDC. This isn't like I'm out reading crackpot theory stuff, but I guess that depends on how you feel about the CDC. But it was a pretty good article. But they were doing some comparisons of the efficacy of masks in some circumstances to not masks in other circumstances. And the evidence wasn't really strong to begin with. And this is for the cloth masks. But one of the things they were pointing out in the report was that they think maybe the cloth masks didn't perform as well as they otherwise would have, because people were only being issued like one mask per 7 days or one mask per 4 days or something like that. And the masks weren't being cleaned. So maybe there were contaminants on the masks, so on and so forth. We're not hearing any of that. We're not hearing, hey, if you've got a cloth mask, don't forget to clean it every couple of days because it can have contaminants. And, we have the loony Republican in Texas going, maybe I got it off my mask. Well, as far as how we actually, where that virus was before, it could be actually. I mean, that's kind of what I got from the CDC report. Not to say masks make you less safe. It's just, yeah, you can have contaminants on your masks. That's true. CDC says so. Go read it.
Well, we've been sanitizing our masks from the get-go. My sister will either iron them or steam them, and of course we wash them regularly. But that's all from, I mean, we researched a lot, we took care of ourselves and we kept ourselves educated, and, that's a lot of what's not going on. And then
Right.
you got the CDC changing their mind every 2 weeks. So
yeah. And when you force someone to wear a mask and they don't believe in it, they're not going to take the extra steps you were talking about. They're not going to
wear it correctly. They're just doing it to check a box.
Yeah.
What do we say? Force ideas, or good ideas don't require force, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, wow, we went a long way off my Walmart rant.
Sorry.
No, that's kind of the point. But what else? What's in the news, or what have you been thinking about?
Oh, me down here?
Yeah, you're down there.
I actually work for a media outlet that people hate, and a lot of our media stuff is surrounded by COVID. We actually wrote 2 different COVID articles today, so this is kind of my life. That's why I'm like, oh, we can talk about this.
Okay.
So you're telling me that people hate media?
You know what's so funny about the media outlet that I work for? We're risque and controversial, but the reason that I work there is because everything that we print has to have a document or some kind of proof behind it. So, when people are yelling fake news, it's like you could not be farther from the truth. And it's funny that the same people that are like fake news are the ones getting mad at us when we're, putting information out that the information that they're asking for, and they just don't want to hear it. So
right.
that's a little.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you can go into it a lot, but has there been a recent one that just really caught your attention, like something that really angered people, that something you'd researched or something like that?
Oh yeah, I can get into that. And actually, this was on my list of things to talk to you about. Which is like the old boys. So I always talk about.
Did you hear what she called you, told her?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've been called a lot of things, so I just overlook being called names. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Trisha.
No, you're good. No, so Clarksville is the 5th biggest city in Tennessee.
Okay.
We got 200,000 in our county, and that's from the 2010 census. So we're hoping that this census puts us actually into 4th. But it's a really wild area, especially for politics, because we've got this large city and this small town mentality. And it's not the people that have the small town mentality, but it's absolutely the government that definitely thinks it's still like 1876, and the same families are still running things, the same guys still getting rich. And our media outlet has made it a point to blow that up. And, people don't like it. And when you're asking about an article, one of the things that recently happened that really, it changed the pace and the direction of my campaign. We had a deputy who was saying some crappy stuff on his Facebook, and I found it because I was doing an article about someone that he had pulled over, and it's really weird because most law enforcement people keep that stuff private, but his whole entire Facebook was open for the whole world to see. And, you know, all I did was flag it and send it up the chain. And I said, hey, maybe you should look at this. And in the end, he was investigated internally by the sheriff's office, and it took them 3 whole days to investigate and remove him. So, you know, what that says to me is they knew the guy. They
right.
knew that, you know, and he was removed. And of course, now, you know, all of the more conservative blue line people are, which I had some of that support. Of course, now they're like, you're a dirtbag for looking into this guy's past. And I'm just like, this is what you're asking for. But because it's a law enforcement officer, now you're not interested. And, you know, so that really did change the course of what I was doing, because it's about doing what's right, not what's making people happy for me now.
Right. By the way, people actually can dial in. So if somebody's listening and wants to dial in, you can call at 516-418-5401. And I really got to record that before next week. That way I can just play it like a little clip instead of repeating myself over and over again, going 516-418-5401.
But you do it so well.
Why, thank you.
His head's swelling.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get a bigger hat. So what'd you come with, Toller?
What did I come with? Well, you know, I met Trish at the political event that we had in Frankfurt. Trish came up to
the training,
and you know, I met her there, and I've been watching a lot of Trish's videos down there in Clarksville, and one of them that I have watched and I've really been wanting to ask about is when all the protests and everything was going on, Trish actually joined with a protest, or was at a protest down there, and went live. And I was just wanting to see kind of like how the reaction of the protesters were with her being a politician at a protest.
So when I actually went to all of the main protests, I went to all of the planned protests. However, they do protest every night still. They're ending on the 31st of August. I do not go up there every night. They do from like 5 to 10, I think. But all of the main ones and definitely the planned ones, I did attend. Not so much as media, not so much as a politician. I just went to listen. And the one, they had shut down the road, like the main, it was like our main highway right up here by my house. And my daughter is, she's half Mexican. So this was something that was important to her to be a part of. So I just went up and I just kind of went live so that people could see, you know. And this has kind of been my thing since I started campaigning, is just helping. This is also on my list, guys. Helping educate people and just keep them engaged and informed about what's going on. I will say that I think Clarksville did amazingly with the BLM protests. The coolest thing that I got to experience was our mayor came down, and you know, this is at the height of COVID. He came down, he went into a crowd. I'm sure the cops were probably like, you're nuts. He had a black shirt on. I mean, he stood out there in the crowd in solidarity and he listened. And that's when I realized, like, that's what makes the difference. And then I ended up reading a quote, I think it was Martin Luther King, about, you know, listening. And I told everybody, I said, the reason Clarksville is not on fire is because our and it wasn't just the mayor, but the mayor set that example. And we had quite a few politicians that came down to these, you know, especially that one where they had shut down the highway, you know. And I think that we could get into and have a whole argument about whether or not Antifa this and whether or not it doesn't matter. Okay. People over politics. Like that's my mantra. That's my thing, you know?
Right.
And yeah, we might get to the point. Obviously if people are lighting stuff on fire, I'm not going to support that. Right. Because I'm a property rights person, but you know, right. we didn't even get to that point because we listened. Someone has a grievance and it's serious, you know, whether you believe in BLM and their founder or whatever, the movement, the voice that's behind BLM, what they were saying, you know, stop killing our sons. Right. Just listen. And listening, my mentor told me that the best thing to do to be a politician is to listen 90% of the time and maybe talk 10 so they know you were listening, you know, and that's, right. It's true. It's 100% true.
I'm going to harbor a guess at the Martin Luther King quote, and I'm horrible at quotes, but I think I remember this one, is, it's about a riot, actually. A riot is the language of the unheard. Is that MLK? I don't know. But anyway, there's a quote out there. I told you I was bad at quotes.
but that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah. But also that's something Spike's been trying to tell us this year too, is I believe he calls it empathetic listening or empathetic communications. And he actually let me do an interview. You can go back and there's a Liberate Daily. It's about a 40-minute interview with Spike talking about empathetic communications and how to do it, the 3 things you do, and I can't really remember because I wasn't listening. No, I'm kidding. You know, you start you start by listening. You know, that's obviously the first thing, and then the second thing you do is you express concern. You know, you express your emotional reaction to that, but you're also communicating back the problem, which is what Trisha was just saying. You know, that 10% you're talking, it's just to let them know you're listening. You have to talk back some, otherwise they don't know where you are. But it's also, you know, a safety check mechanism. When you communicate back, oh, that's terrible, because that means when you're communicating it back, that's your opportunity to find out if you've heard correctly. So you're communicating to them that I heard you and care, but it's also how you found out that you heard correctly. Only then are you in a position that you can conceivably apply your principles to solve the problem correctly. So that's what Spike's been teaching us this year. You might want to go back and listen to Spike. He might explain it a little better than me, but I'll try to throw in a link to that video later. But yeah, I love to hear you're doing that, Trisha, and I love to hear that your mentor taught you to do that.
It's hard for me sometimes because I like to talk. But you know what? I'll tell you what,
not me.
You should know, because you guys are both running too, so you guys know. As soon as you walk up to somebody, you don't have time to talk. They're going to tell you everything. So
right.
It ends up working out. They make it, the voters make it very easy to listen.
Right. When I've been out, I don't usually start by introducing myself as a candidate. I've just gone out and I've just listened as a complete peer, just to legitimately listen, which actually still makes a big difference, because even if you're emoting back and they don't know who the heck you are, it still makes a big difference. But then from a candidate perspective, you know, one gentleman, you know, we got to talking and he found out I was running. It was such a huge deal to him. Just that there was someone somewhere that was running for office that was actually listening to what he was saying, and that was a huge deal to him. And it kind of felt really, really good to be that person. It seemed to make his, like, he was running up, hang on, I got to go get somebody. It's like, but, okay. Like, I wanted to say, I'm not in office, I'm just running for office.
Right. Well, it's like Trisha was saying, you go knock on a door, and people don't realize that, you knock on a door, you really don't have to say a lot, because a lot of people are just, they've got a lot of issues that they're like, I don't want to say mad, but angry about, that's not being anything done with. And you really don't have to say a lot. Yeah, it's hard for people that love to talk, because they're there like, man, I want to say something, but you can't. It's really weird. I mean, a whole day can get away from you quick out here talking to people, just because of that, and you cannot just get up and say, I've got to go on, because that's your constituent talking to you. I thought today I was going to be busy, and I was busy. But it was more time strapped than ever, because I had a meeting this morning that I literally thought was going to last 30 minutes. Well, it turned into 2.5 hours. So it kind of pinched me a little bit more, but I can't just say I've got to go. I've got to listen. And, if you can make yourself a listener, then that attracts people to you, because they're like, well, he's willing to listen to me, or she's willing to listen to me, even though we want to talk. Like most of the time, just sometimes we can't.
Right. Well, it occurred to me that one of the things that we sort of note things to talk about, folks. That way we don't get on here and have absolutely nothing to say. One of the things I picked was about media, and I forgot Trisha was in media, so we'll see how this goes. But
oh, you'd be surprised.
So I was listening to something, it doesn't really matter, and they were talking about these rolling blackouts in California, and it's because of the heat wave, and they were talking about in some places in California it was going to be hot as 112. Well, I lived in Vegas for a year, so 112, it's like, well, yeah, you don't want to be jogging or anything, at least not in the afternoon, but that's fine. But
I've done 2 tours to Iraq.
Oh, there you go. So
Death
Valley's in California. 112 in Death Valley is nothing. That's I'm not sure, but I think it can be that in like March. It's there's a little argument around it, but I think at this point in time they're considering it the hottest place on the planet. There's documented cases of birds dying in flight from heat exhaustion in Death Valley. So yeah, it gets hot. But I got to digging into it more, because I wanted to see where this was coming from, and I wasn't looking for this, but I tripped across this article like 3 years ago, 3.5, February 5th, 2017, LA Times. The headline is Californians are paying billions for power they don't need. California has a big and growing glut of power. An investigation by the Los Angeles Times has found, et cetera, et cetera. And they're saying, these people, we're just subsidizing them to build more and more plants, and we don't need those plants. And then fast forward to today, August 18th, 2020, LA Times, new rolling blackouts imminent as California heat wave intensifies. And of course, the problem with the heat wave, it's not, the heat wave makes you crank your AC, and the AC makes you go through power. So all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, but in 3 years' time, they've gone from a glut of power. And in fact, there's even a quote in here somewhere here we go. More electricity. The state's power plants are on track to be able to produce at least 21% more electricity than is needed by 2020. Oops. I mean, I know it's not exactly our domain, but you know, it's just that caught my attention, and it also ties in with California trying to go to green power, because one of the problems with green power is if you build a solar plant, you know, because you want to get rid of the coal plant, that's all very well and good, except you don't actually get to get rid of the coal plant, because you have to keep the coal plant there for when the sun's not shining. That, or you have to buy a boatload of batteries, or you can have similar arguments with wind. So you end up with these, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters some, but conceptually, regardless of if it's coal or natural gas or anything like that, what you're really doing is you're heating water to spin turbines, and you can't idle those plants completely. So you have to keep them there. You have to keep them functional. You also have to maintain the electric grid in such a way that you can ramp between the two. So you end up paying a lot of extra money for this extra infrastructure to maintain the green power, plus the I'll just call it reliable power, in hopes of turning green, but you're still maintaining it. So it costs you a boatload, and depending on how much natural resources you're putting into doubling the infrastructure, it bites in a little to how green you're even getting to be.
And then if you're California, you run out of power anyway.
Exactly. Exactly. So they're paying a crazy amount of for electricity, and they don't actually get to have it. But it's going to be way more than they need by 2020, which was this year, and they don't have enough. Oops. So we don't have any callers. Yeah, I'm blaming this on Toller. It's your audio, Toller. Earlier when it was bad, you ran everybody off. I don't know that for a fact. I have no idea. So we are 37 minutes in. What else do we have? Not that we have to have anything else. We can let Trisha off the hook if we're done with Trisha. What'd you have, Trish?
Oh, so I wrote down to talk about LEO and community interactions, which we talked about. We talked about BLM, and then the old boys thing, and educating and engaging. I mean, I covered it.
You covered it.
Weird. It flowed so well. It was really awesome.
Well, I certainly feel educated by all of this. So I do have one other financial thing. I'm gonna pull a Frank Harris, and I don't know if you know Frank Harris, but Frank Harris's favorite topic is gold and silver, precious metals. He's a total gold bug, and he's a libertarian here in Kentucky. And I'm sort of introducing it backwards, but big news: the S&P 500 hit an all-time high today, which is kind of a freaky thing when we're going through a pandemic with this, forced lockdown. Since the beginning of the year, Apple's up 57%, Microsoft's up by a third.
And Zoom too, I'm sure.
Yeah, Zoom's way up. No, Zoom's up for what I would consider a constructive reason, though. They are kind of bridging a gap, so that's kind of cool. But gold is up 29% in the last year. That's not since the beginning of the year. That's in the last rolling year, 29%. Silver is up 52%.
And silver's been climbing for a while now.
Right, yeah. Right. And I know there's... Right. And I know there's a lot of people that think I'm talking about, some sort of this is rich person subject, and it's really not, because what I'm really pivoting toward is the reason this is happening, or my take on the reason this is happening, is if you look at the M2 money supply. I know it's a technical thing. There's 20% more money. Just think of it as there are 20% more dollars now than there were at the beginning of the year. 20% more dollars. So of course everything costs more dollars. There's more dollars. I mean, we didn't create that much more wealth. We didn't create 20% more wealth, but we created 20% more dollars. And a lot of people get adversarial toward it, but I looked up Kentucky's teacher fund, and this is the 2018. James, for some reason, the data coming out of Frankfurt for the teachers fund, the most recent I could get was 2018. I do hope you will fix that or get on somebody on that when you're in office, man.
Hey, I will. But I won't hold back on that stuff.
But anyway, our teachers funds, 15.3% of it as of 2018 is in fixed equities. So that's like bonds. Well, the Fed is driving bonds through the frickin' floor. That's another reason the stock market's up. It doesn't make any sense to put money in bonds. And I'm not talking about, Richie Rich or whatever Richie Rich's dad's name was. I'm talking about the teacher's pension, the teacher's pension, or, just your grandma that's on fixed income. When you talk about, she's got a little money put away, she's on fixed income. If she has a financial advisor, probably a fixed income advisor. You can't make money on fixed income now. Making money on fixed income is gone because the Fed's driven it to zero. And they're doing that on purpose. They're doing that so that people have to invest in riskier assets. They want you to invest in riskier assets because that's hopefully where the potential growth is. So by forcing our teachers out of nice, safe bonds, by forcing our grandmothers out of nice, safe bonds, I mean, it's not forcing me out of bonds. I put like this much in bonds to begin with. It doesn't matter to me. But when you're forcing them out of bonds, you're forcing them into the riskier stock market. So even as of 2018, 41.3% of Kentucky's teachers' pension was in domestic equities. So those are the things we're talking about earlier: Apple, Microsoft, things like that. Another 22.7% was in international equities. I don't play in international equities. You need somebody who's good at dealing with not only the value of stocks, but also what do they call it? Basically, your monetary risks. You need some savvy people to play with that. You're like doubling down on the risk when you get into that. But we need to pay attention to this because when you look at the stock market right now today, it's not necessarily bad for our teachers. It's not necessarily bad for our grandmothers because hopefully their advisors have taken them into the stock market. But if this market crashes, it again isn't Richie Rich and whatever his dad's name was again. It's the teachers. It's the grandmothers because they're being forced into this. Or if they're holding pat at the nice safe bonds, bond yields are so low right now, they're actually below inflation. So if you have your money in bonds, you are losing money. And what money you have is becoming worth less. We will see inflation from this. You can't increase the money supply by 20% and expect everything to cost the frickin' same. It's not going to work.
No.
So that's another rant.
Sounds like
poor Trish.
No.
I'm
listening to what you're saying. Now, see, I'm not as smart as you, and I can tell this already. But
you're
when I'm listening,
you're
I'm thinking
smart.
I'm thinking pandemic, and then I'm thinking, wasn't pushing people into risky things what caused the collapse that caused the actual depression in the 20s? Like, or am I off on that?
Well, we were we were allowing people to buy stock on borrowed money on a mass scale, and it was very popular. So really the 2020, the Roaring '20s and the 2000s were basically the same thing. One was stock and the other was subprime properties. So you buy something, you borrow money from a bank to buy a thing, and everybody's doing it, so those things go up in value. So when the banks are valuing it and go, should we loan people this ridiculous amount of money to buy it? Well, sure, why not? It's actually worth that much. Look, everybody's buying it. So then the value goes up more. So you end up borrowing money into existence. This is something that happens with the fractional reserve system. You're borrowing money into existence to buy this thing, and it creates a bubble. You'll hear them talking about bubbles. That's what they mean. And then the bubble pops, and all that money goes out of existence. So, like when you were fighting the Iraq War, we were funding the Iraq War with subprime mortgages, basically. And then the bubble popped, and the money was already gone. The money was already overseas. That's why it hurt so bad, and that's why I'm not gonna bore you all by finding the chart, but if you look at the M0 money supply at the end of 2008, there's this nice little slope of, we're increasing money. That's the base currency, printed dollars, more or less. We're increasing money, but there was no real severe spikes until 2008, and we basically tripled the printed currency. And I thought at the time then, when this money is leveraged, when it's re-leveraged, we were going to have crazy inflation. And it never happened because it was never really leveraged. And you can see that looking at the M2 money supply. Until this year, all these PPP loans, all this other thing, it forced the money to be leveraged. That's why we have basically 20% more money now than we do at the beginning of the year. Sorry.
Can we just return to a barter system, please? Like, seriously.
I think there's a lot of value in that. That's the thing, is like, I'm not even that good at this, there's a lot of details in here. Like even Ken Molman knows a lot. Ken knows all the different M series and what they represent and everything like that. I kind of have the gist of a couple of them, but this is why we have people in Congress now that think we can just print and borrow money forever, because the system has abstracted us from the consequences. So,
that's wild.
Right. And I think in a weird sort of way, I'm kind of missing the barter system, because we are so out of touch with reality. We don't understand what we're doing to ourselves.
I actually have a Democratic friend who's like, she talks about, she's like, I know you're libertarian, so you don't want to spend money. She's like, but Trish, who cares if we give everyone health care? Money isn't real. And I was like, she's right. It's not even real. And you just
not even real.
It's not even real. That's
it's not.
Crazy. Oh, it's
so
wild.
Most people say after we came off the gold standard, our money isn't backed by anything. And I disagree with that. Is if you own your house, you went and borrowed money for your house. Yeah. Did you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Couple
so,
times.
Right. So you were promising to pay the money back. So what really backs the value of the dollar is how much effort Trish is willing to do to get the money to pay the loan back. That's what really backs the value of our dollar. Because like something like 90 or 95% of what we think of as money is actually just money that's been borrowed into existence by me and you and Trish going, well, I need a house, so I'm going to borrow some money. And they literally write the money into existence on your promise to pay it back. But that money doesn't exist yet. That money is not going to exist until Toller's niece needs to buy a house. So she borrows money into existence. And this is how this horrible little cycle happens. You can watch a movie called Money. I think it's Money is Debt. And he'll do a really nice job of introducing you to the fiat currency system. I don't agree with his conclusions, but he explains it really well.
One thing's for sure, Trisha, is your head wasn't the only one to explode. Mine did too, and I think this shows why Robert is running for the U.S. Congress, and we're kind of like way down ballot.
No.
I started at the bottom to work my way up. Thank you.
Well, I think that's what I did. Maybe I'll understand this by that time. I don't know.
I'm running for what I'm running for because when I went to figure out who I was going to vote for on the ballot, I didn't have an option. And I knew we had ballot access. And I was like, why didn't any of my libertarian brothers or sisters run for this? I didn't either. Oh, hell. So here I am. There we go.
It's funny what you were, I'm going to step back for a second to what you were saying about currency. I'm actually a history major. So I run for city council. I go to school full time and I work full time plus, and I got 4 kids. But
wow, good Lord.
we were learning about currency, and what you said about money just being debt is legit. Like they started marking it on stones, and it was debt. You're exactly right.
Right. Cool. Well, we got like 8 minutes left, and I fear if we go into another topic, we will never, ever, ever, ever emerge. Trisha, how do people get connected with you? How do they help you out? How do they help your campaign?
You stole my question.
I stole his question. Correction, James. I taxed your question.
Okay.
You can find my bio, my platform, and all my contact information, as well as a donate link on TrishaButler.com.
Excellent. Thank you. And some of you may know that I, Robert Perry, am running for U.S. House of Representatives in District 2, Kentucky. You can find me at Perry4KY. By about 4 or 5 different spellings. You'll probably find it. And then on Facebook and Twitter, I am Perry4Kentucky. And Toller, I can't remember your stuff. You're going to have to tell them yourself, man.
Yeah, I'm running for the State House of Representatives in the 78th District here in Kentucky. You can find all of my stuff at James Toller for Kentucky 78th District on Facebook. You can go on there, find out everything, watch videos, the whole 9 yards. And hey, it's me. I'm for the people. Let's rock.
Trisha, thank you for joining us. I might have to
thanks for having me.
Do a little road trip down to Clarksville, check out some of these Mexican restaurants with the takeout margaritas you were talking about. I don't know. We'll see. But
where are you at? Are you in Paducah?
I'm here. I'm in Central Kentucky. I'm in Mercer County.
Okay,
I'm about a half hour. Yeah, I'm about a half hour south of Frankfort.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'll see you on Liberate Daily probably tomorrow. I've not actually sorted out a guest yet. And then we will have another Liberation Nation next week with, who are we having it with, Toller?
That is, actually, I just confirmed everything right before the show, and we will have the West Virginia governor's candidate with the Libertarian Party on here next week. Yes. We will have her on here.
She's great.
Yeah, so we'll have her on here next week, and she said Monday at 8 o'clock sounds good to her.
Excellent. So, Trisha, don't forget the number. You can dial in and ask her some questions.
I'll try to remember. She's great. We met her at candidate training, too.
That's right. Excellent. Have a good weekend. I can't talk. Have a good week. Have a good week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trish.